If you're building an product,
Meter billing is the best thing to happen to you. Here's why.
all right. So we've seen more and more people move to meter billing. For example, Copilot on June 1st. Claude Enterprise is now built at API rates. So for the enterprise version, there's like $20 a seat and then token based. And also OpenAI did this. And with Fable 5, the new Anthropic model, it being part of the subscription, and then compute credits from June 22nd with essentially a promise to move it back to the subscription at some point, but no clear timeline. So what we're seeing here is, not just one model's stunt to get initial traction, but it's a direction that AI is moving into. And if you're a product builder, you probably had a conversation like this where, you go to a customer and they say like, yeah, we want to do agentic search on 50,000 files. We want to summarize 50,000 files, whatever, huge amounts of data. And you're like, okay, we can do it, but it's obviously going to cost us quite a bit because now we're dealing with API. We're not dealing with subscriptions where ChatGPT is free and Anthropic is like $20 and you can get, somewhat value out of it. It's not crazy good. Like I think to get best value, you'll probably need to be on the $200 plan, but it's still cheap compared to what you're using, right? And so then the answer is like, why? Like it's $20 or like ChatGPT is free. Like people just don't understand, because clearly this thing has potential to replace a bunch of manual work, right? So it's just not valued at what it should be valued at. And it always makes it such a hard sell. And the reason for that is basically there's a subsidy, right? For example, there's this tool ccusage, which you can use yourself to see what your Claude Code usage will be. And for me, it's $7,000 for the last 30 days. And I paid $200 for the subscription, right? That's 35 times subsidy, but AI isn't cheap. It's just made look to be cheap. And, this is just kind of my own usage. So to grain of salt, there's some codex usage here as well, because I use both, but mostly I'm using Opus. And now I also started using Fable, the new Anthropic model that came out yesterday. By the time this video publishes, I don't know, 4 days ago, I don't know. But yeah, so here you can see, you can run this yourself. It's just npx cc usage in your console. And we've seen this before, right? Like a huge subsidy. I mean, people saying AI is a bubble, and that's a whole other video I could make, but obviously bubbles aren't always bad. Some of them are, but what's part of a bubble is just irrational spending, and it's obviously subsidization, I guess is the word, to get adoption. Get people to use it, get people hooked, and then pull the rug, really, is what you're doing, right? Because at some point, someone has to actually capture the value and make that money, because people are not going to keep investing forever. And so we had the same with Uber as an example. $5 Ubers didn't make cabs cost $5, but they kind of mispriced the whole market, because now all of a sudden, if you're charging normal price for your cab, you look expensive, right? And so, the correction here was a big thing. I mean, Uber, I think they're profitable now, but it took them a very long time. And so basically what we're seeing is, for example, that Uber is capping their own engineers at like $1,500 a month in tokens. Microsoft canceled a bunch of their Claude Code licenses. And this isn't kind of like a system that's breaking, I guess, the market pricing accurately, or more close to what accurate should be. And the problem is that when this is mispriced, then the products built on top of it, they're also mispriced, right? So we probably have a lot of other products that sit on top. And especially, I think the bigger issue is that people just don't value, and they're confused when you tell them like it's actually going to cost a lot of money. But I think this is being fixed now, right? So basically buyers get smarter about, okay, we don't necessarily need to throw the biggest model at it. Okay, maybe there's a way to be more efficient and be better about it. We actually have real ROI, or we are forced to look at ROI more closely. And then we obviously have people who are disciplined with token allocation, which is a skill, and a skill that's becoming more important because of those subsidies going away. So basically you get better
So basically for you as a part builder, if you're very good at making something efficient, you're very good at breaking things down into sub agents or whatever to get it to be work good enough using Sonnet, for example, or some cheap model. Doesn't necessarily need to be Anthropic, obviously. You're gonna have a good time because there's a lot of people in the market right now that are just not good with this and they don't care because nobody's looking, but it will become harder and harder. So if you really want to reframe it, once the customer knows that this costs a lot of money to build, and the alternative isn't to just be like, I can just go to Claude and I don't need your product where you have spent a lot of time optimizing something. I can just go to Claude and I do this for $20 and I don't need to pay you $500 a month or something. But now all of a sudden Claude is $1,000. Now your product starts looking attractive, right? Rather than rolling their own. And so I think this efficiency is essentially something you have to think about when you build your product. And now it's finally actually worth something. Before it just wasn't, because people just didn't care, because they didn't have to. As the builder, obviously price transparently, efficiency can be a moat. The same outcome at half the burn is now all visible edge. And obviously you don't want to subsidize your own customers. And essentially also, this is a previous video I made, the loop crowd that's just building loops and have 1,000 agents orchestrated for no reason. Their builds you're going to help you look cheap just because you're efficient and you're diligent. But yeah, the only downside really is that the meter obviously doesn't help you build your own product if you're using Claude Code or something else to write code. And obviously also experimentation, so it's very hard to tinker around. And before I built the production workflow, I just use Claude and just mess around with it in Cowork or Claude Code because I don't have to pay for it, right? And so I think that goes away, unfortunately, but we'll have to see. Maybe we can't even use Claude Code anymore ourselves to build product, which then I'm kind of gonna eat my own words, am I right? But yeah, so how I see it, the meter doesn't kill AI products, it just kills Mispriced once, and if you're building, that's your edge. But yeah, if any of this sounded interesting, feel free to subscribe below, and I'll see you in my next video where I talk about my system, how to ship code with AI. All right, cheers.